Hey guys, it's me, Dax Moy from DaxMoy.com, and a whole host of other sites that come across my mad ramblings from. Today, I'm really fortunate to have Chris Tuck on the line with me. Today, we're going to be chatting about some great projects that Chris is currently involved in, from setting up a new organization to the release of a new book, and a whole host of really cool things that Chris has invested a lot of time to bring to life over the last, I don't know, what is it, Chris? The last 7 or 8 months or something?
Try double that.
Try
Dax,
double that.
16 months, yeah.
Oh, wow, time flies.
Yeah.
So Chris, thanks very much for coming on the call today. I'm really looking forward to my mad rambling with you and finding out a little bit of your mad ramblings for a change. So which will be really cool. So I mean, how long have we known each other now?
Since December 2010, to be exact.
December.
It's when I first met you at your elimination diet seminar.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, kind of my various mad ramblings. So, I mean, obviously, you and I have a bit of a history together, and we've done a whole bunch of different programs together. We've been involved in the ED, the kinetic chain, the power principles, kind of pretty much every mad rambling that I've got. You've heard it at least once by about now.
Yeah, I've been a bit of a stalker. Sorry, Dina.
But yes, I mean, I've gotten to know you quite well, and across the time that I've gotten to know you, I've also gotten to know a fair bit about some interesting and colourful past, to say the least, that we'll be discussing shortly, which is the focus of your new projects, essentially. Before we get to that, I mean, I'm particularly interested in your current projects because whilst they're in some respects different to mine, there were some specifics about them that make them different. There's some similarities, and I guess if I put it into a nutshell, it comes from a bit of a crazy childhood. My childhood was kind of filled with violence and things like that from my violent alcoholic stepfather, who was kind of extremely violent. As everybody knows, in my book, The Magic 100, I tell the story about how I actually stabbed him through the heart. I was 15 years old. He was beating up my mum, and kind of one thing led to another, and it was me, 15-year-old attempted murderer. Fortunately, I didn't kill him. I managed to resuscitate him, keep him alive, and all the rest of it. But I guess in many respects, a lot of people see that as a bit of an interesting story because by all accounts, a housing estate kid who grew up in poverty to that kind of violence, and actually then ended up carrying out violence himself. It was not really supposed to become successful in life later on. And I've done kind of well for myself. I've done all right. And it's just interesting that there's a lot of parallels between myself and you in terms of you've come from quite a use the term interesting background.
Yeah, interesting background. Yeah.
And we'll find out just how interesting that background is in a second. But come from an interesting background, and you yourself, you've managed to kind of initially, I guess, claw your way out of it, but kind of later on really do some quite amazing things. And so, I mean, that's where I'd like to kind of pick up, really. I mean, we use the term interesting now. I mean, what is your background, Chris?
I was one of 4 original children. So there's my eldest brother, then me, then my sister Diane, and my younger brother Michael. So as far as I'm aware, up to the age of 7, my family life was fine because I don't have any recollection of it not being fine. Then I later found out that my mum left my dad because he was being a naughty boy and he was having affairs, and he used to beat up on my mum. But I didn't know that at that time because I was only 7. But my mum left when I was 7. She left us children with my dad, and that was a very upsetting, traumatic time for myself. And my dad shacked up with the lady who lived 4 doors down, who had 7 daughters. We later surmised that my dad did that because he had fresh blood, if you like, to go to work on. But I'll explain a bit more about that later. My dad married the lady Vivian. I've just changed her name for the sake of our conversation and the book. And oh, this is really hard. Sorry.
It's okay.
My dad went on to abuse some of my stepsisters and my younger sister Diane, and he got put away for the abuse of them. And while he was in prison, my stepmom went on to physically, mentally and emotionally abuse us because she blamed us for my dad's actions on her daughters. Whilst we was living with her, my real mum was trying to get custody of us, and eventually she managed to do that, and we went to live with my mum, who had remarried my stepdad, for the sake of this conversation, is called Fred, and they had 2 more children of their own who were my half sisters, so they were blood related. My stepdad went on to abuse my sister Diane as well, and he was an alcoholic like your dad. He mentally, physically and emotionally abused my mum, and because we were a lot older then in this second relationship, in this second family, we were more vocal. We were also very angry. We were very frustrated, and we were able to protect ourselves more than when we were in the first family. So that caused a lot of anxiety and pressure within the household, because every time they asked us to do something or tried to force us to do something, we would say, well, no, actually, we've already done that. We don't want to do that anymore. So it caused a lot of arguments and a lot of, as I said, anxiety within the house. And my stepdad, he would come home on a Sunday, for example, and mum just cooked dinner. Well, we all cooked dinner, and she used to say, right, behave yourselves now. Your dad's coming home. You've got to, you know what he's like. And if everything's not right, he will come in and create blah, blah, blah. And we're sort of like, well, actually, we just cooked him this dinner. So why do we have to do what you say? Why do we have to make everything perfect for him when he's gone out to the pub and drank all the money that we need to live on? So we were quite resentful towards him, and he would just come in, Dax, and just upturn the whole table. He would find any excuse, just pick an argument so he could play out his authority in front of us all. And even to this day, I can't sit at a table and eat dinner on a Sunday when the football's on, because I've got too many emotions and feelings around that particular scenario. So it just wasn't a pleasant time. So for going through everything with the first family and going through everything with the second family, we all left home very early on, like 15, 16, because we just needed to get out of that environment, because we just were not happy with staying in that environment. We didn't want to put up with it anymore. So in a nutshell, that is my life from 0 to 16, just going through a lot of physical, mental and emotional abuse and actual sexual abuse myself outside of the family, and just trying to change our lives round, really, to get out of a very negative environment to creating our own positive environment. And it's been successful to an extent. I'm still working on myself, and I know my brothers and sisters are still staggering through their lives. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They're not quite where I am, and I see myself as actually being quite successful in leaving a lot of the shit behind and moving on. But it does catch up with you. It does. It's still always there, but making the choice to try and leave it all behind and move on is what I'm about and what I help my clients with, and that's what you've shown me to do, and I know that's what you try and do with your clients. You say to them, you've got choices, and you can either live with the baggage and live with the negativity, or you can choose to put it down and say, yeah, shit happened and it did happen, but why let the abuser or the person that's controlled you up to that point, why let it control the rest of your life? Because you are the adult now, and you do have choices, and you can make the choice to move on and grow, or you can make the choice to stay and die mentally and physically, because that's what you do when you stay in the situation that's causing you so much unhappiness.
It's interesting listening to you talk, and certainly in terms of hearing you talk about kind of how your siblings are still with the situation. There's a lot of belief in there's a lot of belief around mindset that it's simply a choice to move on, and that's true to a degree. There's a lot that there is a lot that we can control, but obviously there's a lot of feelings that kind of live deeper within us, and those feelings in brain physiology. We're not just talking about the mindset side, not just psychology, but in brain physiology. There's a saying that what gets fired together gets wired together, right? And it was just very interesting to hear you say that to this day, sitting at a table and having the football on brings about those feelings of negativity again, because what happens is your brain is looking out for triggers, and it says, for example, in your case, okay, I remember sitting at a table, football was on, angry, horrible, nasty stuff happened, right? And if that happens enough, it wires together in the nervous system, so that even if you might be sitting down for a very pleasant Sunday afternoon dinner, and someone might decide to switch the football on, and you're at the table, your brain immediately adds one to the other and says, okay, this is how I'm supposed to feel, and this is what's supposed to happen right now. I'm supposed to go into fight or flight or alarm phase, and it starts to enact those things, even in the absence of the threat. So what gets fired together gets wired together. So it's a lot of the work that we have to do, certainly as coaches, and certainly not just from a psychological perspective, but from a brain science perspective, is understanding what the wiring looks like and trying to rewire it to something else so that those associations change. And it certainly sounds like, a lot of the work that you've been doing has been actually about kind of rewiring, kind of creating new what's known as neuro associations. So it's not just about positive thinking. Positive thinking gets you so far, but positive thinking is always a little bit like putting kind of nail varnish over cracked nails, right? It looks pretty on the outside, but as soon as the trigger comes back, it's like fight or flight. Like if I jump out of a dark alleyway in the middle of the night with a balaclava on and a knife in my hand, you're not going to stand there and think, I wonder if this is a threat to me or not, right?
I can leg it.
Right. Exactly. Your central nervous system is going to take over for you. It's not going to be a cognitive brain thing that says, let me figure out if this is a threat. Your central nervous system does it for you. And this is also what happens in a lot of elements of particularly deep psychological trauma, but especially so when that psychological trauma came about from childhood. It's even stronger because the firing and wiring has a deeper connotation. So it's just interesting to hear you talking about how your siblings have still got that wiring essentially, and you've got it to a degree, but you're learning to undo it. And it can really only be undone at a cognitive level. You have to be willing to do the work and be willing to sit down with the crappy bits. And a lot of people aren't, because in the early stages of sitting down with the crappy bits, you have to be willing to feel all those emotions again.
Yeah, and it has been horrible. Like you saying, painting over the cracks, that's what a lot of people do. I worked at the Priory for over 10 years, psychiatric hospital, and a lot of people have come to a point in their lives where they've completely just broken down because they can't carry on painting over the cracks. They have to deal with the issue, and the issue was the causal problem of whatever happened way back when. And you don't have to visit the exact scene of it, but you have to look at it and see how it's affecting you, and as you say, rewire it, change everything around it, and put a different habit or strategy in place in order so that to break the record, so you don't actually keep going back over the same old stuff, the same old ground. You've got to look at things differently. Yeah,
absolutely. The most important thing here is that we as human beings give things meaning. And we're pretty much one of the only animals that do that. We give things its own meaning ourselves. So we dress things up in our own stories. And so those stories can be perpetuated as in, this is really bad, which means that my life is really shit for the rest of my days until I die. Or, wow, that was really bad. I wouldn't want that to happen to anyone else. By the way, I've got a life that I want to get on with living, and I don't want those things to keep triggering in my brain. We have that as a choice, but to get to that rewiring, there's a lot of work that we have to do. And exactly as you said, I'm glad you said that. It doesn't mean a lot of people are terrified because the traditional therapy approach is to go back and visit the scene of the crime over and over again and analyze it. And what do you think? That's as I'm coming to understand brain science more and more now, that's actually in many respects the wrong way to deal with it, because you just keep revisiting your trauma. Your brain doesn't really understand that that's not happening to you again. So let's say if it was sexual abuse, it's like you're reliving sexual abuse over and over again. Well, no one wants to do that, but you can actually address what the sexual abuse means to you. And kind of, yeah, it's interesting because that's the direction that I know that you've been taking. So tell me about this book. This is what you've been spending time working on. What's the book about? What are you hoping to do with it, and who's it designed to help?
Well, it's about painting the picture of the childhood, because people have got to understand exactly where I've come from, or where we've come from as a family, and what has happened to us, and how we felt, and how we went through it, and how we overcome it, what sort of things we did to overcome it, so that they can possibly follow the same sort of structure, the same path, and get the help that we've all had along the way. And what I'm hoping that people get from the book is that the fact that they do have a choice. They can choose, as I said, to stay where they are. They can choose to move on, but they've got to understand what is causing their problem. So in my instance, leaving home at the age of 16 I was in so much pain in the place that I was at in my life, that the choices that I had at that particular point in time was to either stay and suffer more and not be me, not be anybody, just be very downtrodden and very I don't know what the word is, just a nobody, and feeling like a nobody, or I could take control and get out there and become someone. And the thing is, Dax, at that time I had no money, I had nowhere to go. My education, I got 5 O-level C's, which some people sounds great, but it wasn't. I scraped through with that because I hadn't actually had a lot of schooling myself. I was out of school a lot of that time, and I didn't know where I could go. Like you, I was off a council estate. We was on benefits. No one in my family had aspired to anything. We were just working class. Well, we wasn't in working class. We was on benefits. My whole family was on benefits. So what was I meant to do? I didn't have a clue. I just I just knew that my pain was so much that I had to get out of where I was, and anything was better than staying where I was. So the book is all about really getting people to understand that they do have the choice, but until the pain is it's there all the time, they're not going to make a change until there's a big driver for them to make the change. And a lot of my clients that I work with, and a lot of clients that you work with, they are in a place where they want to change their body, or they want to get fitter, or they want to get slimmer, or that they want something, but until they actually identify that there's a big reason why they have to make that change, they're not going to really succeed at it. And that's what we as coaches strive to do on a day-to-day basis. But my driver at that time was I didn't want to live in that pain anymore. It was overriding. It was every day, and I just thought, do I want to live my life? I'm not being unkind, but like my mum for the next 40 years? No, thank you. It didn't appeal to me. So I had to make a decision as to what I would do. And I've told you this story before. I held down a job at McDonald's on a Sunday, a Wolves on a Saturday. I had 3 shifts, night shifts off license, and that was just to get me the money to live whilst I took myself through college. And the only reason why I managed to get to college was someone actually had the foresight to see that I had potential, and it was a friend's mum, and she actually sat down with me and she said, Chris, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, well, what do you mean what I want to do with my life? I'm just going to go out and get a job, aren't I? That's what everybody does on cancer estates. We don't make nothing of ourselves. I'm not going to get anywhere. And she says, no, you've got options. You can go to college, you can do this, you can go do that. And I'm like, no, I can't. Of course I can't. Why? And she said, no. And she said, what do you really, really want to do? And I went, you know what? That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. I don't know what I want to do. And then I thought, what do I really enjoy doing at school? And I thought, well, I like my cookery lessons. go and become a chef. Why not? She's asked me the question, so I'll just give her a flippant answer. I went, well, I quite like cooking. I can become a chef, can't I? She goes, yeah, of course you can. I went, pardon? She goes, of course you can. You can do anything you like. And I went, oh, okay. And I said, well, my mum and my stepdad are not going to help me do that. So how can I do it? And she goes, well, we look at colleges and we get you an application form. I went, but I've got no money. How do I pay for my, I want to leave home. How am I going to pay for that? She goes, well, you're earning. She says, we can, anything is possible. You've just got to decide what you want to do, and you've got to put steps in place to get there. And that's what I did, Dax. I was fortunate enough to know the owner of the off licence had a couple of bed sits. So I just said to him, look, this is my situation at home. This is what I need to do. I need to get out of there. I found out that I can get to college. I found out that I can get a loan. Not a loan, it was more of a grant type, assisted living. And I said, that's how I can afford to pay for the bed sit. And he went, fine, that's great. I wasn't quite 16 then, Dax, so I I said to him, it's only 3 months until I'm 16. How are we going to deal with that? And he said, well, legally I can't let you live by yourself. He said, but if you really need to get out, he said, get your mum to sign the form and it's yours. And so 2 people believed in me, and I just said, right, okay, I'm going for it. I can't stay where I am. I've just got to get out and go for it. And it was like just taking a leap of faith and just going for it. And that's what I did. And that was the start of my second life, really, of freedom, getting myself out of that hellhole and just getting on.
So two things stand out to me about that. One of them being actually just having the courage. Actually, 3 things. So the first thing is actually being aware that the pain is getting too much. Second one is having the courage to do something about it, and the third is to look for people that can support you in that journey, right? So, kind of without any of those things present, life would have been a lot harder for you to make the change. If you'd have, I guess here's a question though. So how come there are so many people that would say, I'm living with a lot of pain. I relive this every day. I see the visions of my sexual abuse daily, or whatever trauma it is that happened to them. I'm in just as much pain as you were, but I can't get myself to take that step. What would you say to them?
Is your pain really that bad? Because if it is, you would get up and do something about it. That's what I would say. I don't know anything else than that, Dax, because I just could not take another put down. I couldn't take another hit. I couldn't take another. Just being in an environment where someone was controlling me, I just couldn't take it anymore. Life was just unbearable. I just felt like I was at a point that if I didn't get myself out of the situation, I would explode. And the way I would explode at that particular point in my time, like yourself, you end up stabbing your stepdad. I could have quite easily gone the same way, because our household was getting more and more violent because there was so much emotion running really high, and a lot of people trying to prove themselves, that a tragedy would have occurred, and then I wouldn't be here speaking to you like I am today, because something nasty would have happened in that household.
Sure.
Things had to change. It couldn't stay the way it was. It just couldn't.
So you took the steps. You moved out.
Yeah.
You started going it alone. You got. I mean, I think that's an important lesson in itself: is get yourself out of the environment that is causing you pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people are in pain, but they stay in the environment that is causing the pain. And of course, it's all cause and effect, right? As long as you stay where the cause is, the effect is always going to be the same. You're still going to be in
the
pain.
Same. Nothing changes if nothing changes, right?
But that's also the same in terms of the internal environment. You keep visiting. The term I always use is like picking at scabs, right? You keep picking at scabs, the wound never heals. And a lot of people are kind of keener to pick at the scabs of the wrongs that have been done to them in their life, rather than saying, okay, well, how do I heal it up? Okay, so I mean, what have been your stages in stopping picking at the, like, how is it that you've managed to not pick at scabs when other people are kind of still caught in their pain decades later?
I do have times where I pick at my scab. Mm-hmm. And I ruminate and I wonder what I'm going to do about things. But because I've been successful once at moving on, I know that whatever comes up now, that there is always a way round it. There is always someone there to reach out to, and there is always something that I can do myself to get myself out of a situation and get me to move on. If I hadn't have had those people believing in me and helping me, I truly believe that I would still be trying to move myself on. Because I don't know, I'm just not that type of person just to sit there and allow other people to carry on abusing me. When I was a kid, I had no choice. They were adults. They were in control of me. But as an adult, I can make my own life. And I think when you have one little success, whatever that happens to be, I think that gives you a bit of courage to take another step. And then when you have another bit of success, you just keep moving on until you get to where you want to be. It's a slow process, but it's just something that I've just done and I just carry on doing.
So, Chris, a lot of people watching this would say, well, congratulations, like, well done you. But I have like you just said, the importance of having support and having someone believe in you. What if they say, well, look, I've got no one in my life that believes in me. I've got no one who wants to support me. Like, everyone around me is giving me crap. Everyone around me is involved in the cycle of my pain. Where do we go now?
It starts with you. You've just got to decide whether you want to stay or whether you want to go. And I had those people to help me, but as you said, I didn't know they were there to help me. I already made up in my mind that I wanted the change, and it happened because I wanted it. So no one else can live your life for you. You've got to understand yourself that it's not what you want. So what do you want? And like you said to me on the last interview that just went, decide what you don't want, and then that will help you find what you do want, and then you can go after that. And it's all about knowing what you do want and then finding the people that are able to help you get there. And it's not always easy, and I'm not saying it is, but there's so many organisations out there now, Dax, that weren't there in the in the 70s and the 80s that I knew about at the time, because I was a kid and we didn't even have access to, we had those red telephone boxes that we had to walk to get to make a phone call. And now with mobile phones and internet, there's access to all of these organisations. So if a person's stuck in an abusive relationship cycle or whatever's going on in their lives and they feel like that there is no way out, they've just got to decide one day that they've got to pick up that phone or confide in someone they know is going to help them move on. Because we had lots of knockbacks. We told loads of people. I told people at school. I wrote stories about it to the teachers. We told social workers. There was so much that I felt I was telling the world. Just the fact that we went to school with clothes that didn't fit us, that we had holes, that we had bruises on our body, that we were so ravenously hungry. Does that not tell you that these children are being neglected? I mean, what else do you have to say to people to get the help that you need, Now, I'm so vigilant now. I'm looking at children. I'm looking at if they're unhappy, if they're cared for. I look all the time. And if I see something that doesn't look right, I will find out about things, and I will make sure that I'm satisfied myself that nothing untoward is going on. And if I think that there is, I will phone up and I will report things, because I don't want any child going through what we went through, because it's not nice and they shouldn't have to go through it. It's just...
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess this is part of the, I know that your book is partly about kind of helping you and your siblings exercise some of your own demons. I know there's that, but there's also, that's part of the sharing the story is exactly that reason, is it? So that people don't have to feel that it's some kind of shameful story that they've got to hide in the back of the cupboard somewhere, but something that they can actually use as a tool for progressing their life forward.
Yeah, it is absolutely. So it's, as I said, it's about where we've come from. It's about where we are now. And, I feel I've made a success of my life. I'm still learning always, but then we wouldn't be human if we weren't learning all the time. Um, I'm constantly looking to better myself. I'm constantly trying to find answers. I'm constantly trying to help people around me. And it's just showing them that no matter where you come from, you can choose the outcome of where you want to be. You've just got to decide what you want to do, and you've got to see what steps you need to get there. So the book is all about a story of hope. So it's not about I've made a success and well done me and all the rest of it. It's there to show people that they can turn their own lives around, and they can get the help that they need, because there's so much help out there that they can grab hold of nowadays that's free, and to actually move themselves from where they are now to where they want to be. And that's what the book's about, and I'm just hoping that it's going to help lots and lots of people.
Mm. Okay, so what's the book called?
Through the Eyes of a Child.
Wait, so I know that's part of the project, but you've got a second part of the project as well that you've been working on as well. Tell us about that.
I've been working on it with Mel Colley, and basically we've set up an organisation called survivorsofabuse.org, and what we're planning to do with this organisation is that some of the proceeds from the book will go into this organisation that I eventually want to get turned into a charity, but I've got to find out, the ins and outs of how to do that. So it's not for profit for the moment. And we want to use the proceeds, going forwards for forever, the proceeds from this to help people that can't afford to get help. So cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT and things like that, very recognised programs that will help them get from where they are, so from surviving day to day to actually thriving and living their lives to the full and being happy. And I've got clients at the moment that are so traumatized from stuff that they've gone through, like domestic violence, abuse, sexual, physical, emotional abuse, whatever it is, and they've been to see their doctor, and there's waiting lists, Dax. There is no immediate help, and some people got post-traumatic stress disorder from what they're going through, right? And they need help now, today, not in 6 weeks' time. I've got one particular lady client with me at the moment that she come to me for fat loss, and knowing what I know and having like a sixth sense, like a radar going off, I sort of said to her, right, what is stopping you from getting to where you want to be? And she was giving me all this, oh, it's because I'm greedy, it's because I'm this, it's because, and I said, no, what has gone on in your life that's stopping you moving on? And then eventually got back to this abuse that she had. And I said, right, you're not at a stage where I can help you at the moment, because that's not my expertise. I need to refer you back to a psychologist, a psychotherapist, someone that can help you deal with that before you come back to me, and I can help you with your nutrition and your fitness and your mindset to move you on. And she come back to me the other day and she said, I've been back to the doctors, they've put me on antidepressants, I don't want to take them because they make me put on weight, they don't do nothing for me, I've been on them before. And I said, right, okay, so what do you need, what can I do to help you? And she goes, well, I need to speed up my access to proper therapy, and this is what I want the survivorsofabuse.org to provide, is this crisis management, really, of being able to have some funds to give to people like that particular client to get some immediate help. Like my sister needs help, she needs CBT, but you get sent to the doctor, and the doctor says, right, okay, you can have counselling in 6 weeks' time, and you can have access to 6 sessions, because I had access to therapy sessions, and I literally went along to the therapist, I sat in a chair and I cried for 6 sessions. I didn't get any therapy, there was nothing there that helped me move on. It just thought, shit, how bad is my life? Here I am crying again, my life is shit. What there's nothing about moving you on or understanding what's going on in your head. So I want this organisation going forwards to help people that are in like this crisis, that you know, they're not in such a crisis that they're slitting their wrists, so they're suicidal, because obviously they go to the community mental health teams in hospital and stuff, but they are needing immediate help, not help in 6 weeks' time. So that's what I want the organisation to do. That's that organisation. But once the person has had the psychotherapy or the psychiatric help that they need, Mel Colley, who has a similar background to ours, is abusive background, so we understand, we have empathy, we know what our clients are going through. We've got an online health and wellness program that's an 8-week program, and it's called Breaking the Cycle. So it's breaking the cycle of understanding your habits, understanding your own mindset, understanding what's going on and what's controlling you, and moving you forwards from where you are to where you want to be, but through fitness and nutrition, because that is what you do, that is what I do, that is what Mel does, and that is what makes us the health coaches that we are today, because we understand how important nutrition and fitness is in the journey to healing yourself and living a happy, healthy life. So that's what I've really got from working with you, and that's what's got me through my own journey, is that the fitness made me feel really, really good. It gave me the buzz that I needed. It made me channel my aggression and my frustration. I got rid of it, and it made me feel happy. It made me feel in control. So by understanding what fitness did to me, and I qualified as an accountant, Dax, as you know, and at the age of 30, I had a breakdown at work. Ben was 18 months old, and he was in childcare for 12 hours a day. I was a financial controller of a company. They expected blood and more. They wanted me to be there like 12, 14 hours a day. And my son, who I'd waited 28 years to have a baby to love, I'd gone through my whole childhood not being loved, and I just wanted security and stability and money in the bank for my children, and I wanted to be around for my children. But here I was at the age of 30 in a job that was taking up all of my time, and my child was in nursery 12 hours a day, and then went to my sister's afterwards because I was working long hours. And I eventually had a breakdown because I couldn't deal with being a mother, being a wife, being a financial controller, being a manager of 7 people. I just couldn't manage it. Although I'd worked my way up to that, and that's what I thought I wanted, when I got it, I couldn't hack it. I wasn't Superwoman, even though I thought I wasn't.
Obviously, so if I just recap for you, you made that first transition the first transition of leaving home, that big step of kind of saying that you weren't willing to put up with things anymore. You then moved into your first career, like the accountancy, and kind of felt that, I guess you were under, as many people call it, the golden handcuffs. You were earning fairly decent money. You were kind of in a position of responsibility and all that kind of stuff. Only to find later on that it was nothing like what you wanted your life to be. You were kind of handcuffed to work every day and not really spending enough time with your child at the time. And so decided that wasn't the right fit for you either. The pain, just like in the first scenario, the pain outweighed the pleasure. Not that there was any pleasure in the first scenario, but the pain outweighed the pain definitely outweighed the scenario you found yourself in. So then you decided to move on again, and that's what brought you to the fitness profession, right?
It did, yeah. I retrained as a fitness professional when Charlie, my second child, was 4 months old. I just decided one day, I was working part-time at the Priory by this time as accounts manager, and I just decided, right, what else can I do? Because they were making me redundant, you see, and I thought, oh dear, don't really want to be earning no money, because that doesn't sit well with me, because even though my husband, he was making money and paying the bills and everything, didn't sit well with me. I had to earn my own money and contribute to the household, because that's what I've always done. And so I thought, well, what else can I do? I'll become a fitness instructor, because fitness got me through all those times when I needed to get rid of my stress and my anger. So that's what I'll do, because there's nothing else I want to do. I love fitness. That's what I'm doing. So off I trotted to London, YMCA weekend course over, I think, 4 or 5 months, become an exercise music instructor. But again, it wasn't an easy thing. People who know me say, oh yeah, it's all right for you. You just bounce back, you're able just to move on to the next thing. It's all right. Everything comes easy. It don't. It takes a lot of guts, and yeah, a lot of guts really, because everyone around me says, well, why do you want to do that for? They're not supportive. What do you want to go and do that for? But you're an accountant, you're earning lots of money, so why do you want to go and do something different? You've got your house, you've done this, you've done that, and I'm like, but I'm not happy, so that means I need to do something different. So I would stand up in the middle of a class full of people at college when I was learning to do it, and I would I'd spent a whole week learning a 10-minute routine. I mean, that's crazy. I just get up and do it now, but at the time it was just like, oh my God, what do I say? And I went, hello everyone, welcome to my class. And then I went, wah! I just burst into tears. It was horrendous. I've never felt so bad in my life. And I just thought, how the hell am I meant to get up in front of people and do this as a living? But you get over that, and you work through it, and you just think, right, okay, do you want to go back to the accountancy? Do you want to go back to the long hours? Do you want to never see your son and your daughter? No, Chris, you don't want to go back there, because you've already said it doesn't serve you. You need to do something different, and this is what you've chosen, so get on with it. You've said to these people, you're doing it, so just get on with it. And something deep inside, Dax, I don't give up on stuff. Once I've put my mind to it, it is just, you've been there, you've done it, you've succeeded before. Yes, it's scary. Yes, you don't know what the outcome is really, but you want to do it, so just get on and see it through. And 9 times out of 10, once you've seen it through, it's fine. It is. You can get there, you can achieve it. But I have the wobbles and the insecurities like everybody else, and I've even got a bigger one coming up. I'm becoming a public speaker about my story and about helping people. So I'm next weekend going on a public speaking course. That is just one scary, hairy monster for me. But, when I do the book launch on the 1st of September, I'm going to get up in front of over 100 people and tell them about my story. And I'm not comfortable with it yet, Dax. Hand on heart. I want to be, and I want to stand up and tell people that this is me, this is what I've come through, and this is what I've achieved, and you can too. But it is scary for me, but it's what I want to do. And I know I'm going to help people, so I'm going to see it through. And there's going to be tantrums and tears next weekend. I can guarantee it. But I know that my story's worth telling, and I know it's going to help lots of people. So I've got to just get out of my comfort zone and go for it.
I think there's a lot of lessons in that basically the thing that the thing that you're scared of, like the step that you're scared of making, is never actually as bad as the thing that you're trying to get away from in the first place, right? If it becomes that painful for you, that the next step, yes, it's scary, yes, there's a whole bunch of fear associated with it, but that actually at some point you need to make the decision, like, okay, if I'm not going to take this step, that means I'm voting to stay where I am. And I think a lot of people don't make that correlation. They don't necessarily, in their mind, take the responsibility for that actually by choosing not to take a step in a new direction, I'm choosing to stay where I am. And I think a lot of people don't resonate with that at first. So kind of when they hear speakers, and certainly kind of people that are dealing with like trauma speakers or even motivational speakers that say, hey, this life is a choice. People say, screw that. I haven't chosen for these nasty things to happen to me. Of course you didn't.
When you first said that to me, I thought, what is that bloke on? He don't know what he's talking about. But as I let it sink in, what you said was true.
Yeah. So, I mean, nobody chose for the stuff to happen, but you can choose to keep picking the scab, and you can choose to keep living a life where you look at your pain every day and say, oh, well, that pain defines me. That's where the choice lies. No little child decided that they wanted somebody to come along and abuse them, whether physically or sexually or whatever. But you, as an adult, every day you wake up and you make the choice and say, okay, I'm going to put my victim hat on today, and I'm going to continue to choose to be that person. That part is where the choice lives.
Yeah.
And I think we, kind of, I love the stories that you're telling here, because each story is one of saying, okay, I'm choosing not to be this way anymore. I'm choosing to have something different in my life than the life I'm currently experiencing.
And I think that's the biggest message that the book is really giving out. And what you say all the time as well is that is where the choice lies, is do you stay where you are and be miserable and keep moaning? Because if you stay there and you moan all the time at people turn off to you. They don't want to hear it anymore. They want to hear that you're helping yourself and moving on, And when people do, or when people have given me the help, I don't want to go back to them and say, woe me, oh, listen to me, poor me, blah, blah, this has happened to me, blah, blah. I want to come back to you and say, you know what you said to me, I've now used that, I've listened to you, I've turned it around, and this is what I've done. And I think that's where you get the reward, because you've helped someone. And this is what I do with my clients, I find it really frustrating still when I help people, and I don't mind helping anyone, hand on heart, I really don't. But when they come back to me week in, week out and tell me that they haven't done that because, I'm like, well, no, look. It don't work like that. If you want my help and advice, you need to act on it. You need to take yourself forward, because I can't live your life for you. I wish I could, but I can't. So at some stage, you have got to take responsibility for yourself, because I've been where you are. I understand the reasons and the excuses, the barriers, whatever you want to call it. But at some stage, I had to take the action. No one could do that for me. And that is all I can do for you, is say, yes, I understand, but now you need to take the step to get you out of that to where you want to be. And it is hard, but until people really understand that, you can't help them as a coach.
So this new program and this new organization you're setting up, it's really about kind of empowering people to take that first step.
It is, yeah, empowering them, building their self-esteem up, Dax, getting them to understand where they are and why they are like that. And then, sorry, this is my daughter just coming to say hello. Okay, I know. And then and getting them to move on, but empowering them to take the responsibility for them to move on.
So the book is coming out on the 1st of September.
It is.
And where will we find out about that? Where's that going to be launched?
I'm doing the book launch on the 1st of September in my local area, and then it's coming out in bookstores and online on the 2nd of September. So, but in the first instance, if people would like to get a copy of the book, they can go to christuckmystory.com and just register their interest that they want a copy of the book, and that'd be fantastic, because, as I said, some of the proceeds from each sale of the book will be going to help people.
And you're saying the organisation you set up is survivorsofabuse.org?
Of abuse.org, yeah.
And is that live now?
It's being worked on as we speak, so it should be live within the next... People can access it, but it will be live properly by the 1st of September.
Well, so in closing, as you know, kind of, you've written this book to help people take the first step. You've created this organisation that's going to be coming online soon as well. What is the one big, I guess if someone's sitting here listening to this call right now and they're thinking of kind of, things aren't necessarily right in their lives and they're looking at making a change, what one big takeaway would you like listeners of this call to kind of get away with?
I would just like them to understand that whatever they've gone through is not their fault, but they can choose to stay or they can choose to go. And it's not always easy to make that choice, but they have to make the choice. And once they've made the choice to make a change, then they will all of a sudden find a way to achieve what they need to do. Yeah,
I believe that too. One of the ways I always put that is that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah.
Kind of that. Yeah. No, but it's another way of saying no one else is going to fix it for you. Basically, if part of your life is broken, it's your responsibility to fix it. You're not the one who broke it. It wasn't your fault. But you're the only one with the screwdriver to fix it now. Yeah. Chris, thanks very much for giving me your time today. I'm really looking forward to both seeing the book when it finally comes out. I've seen a whole bunch of your advanced stuff. It's brilliant. and really looking forward to seeing that come out. And I know that both the book and the organisation are going to help a hell of a lot of people. So thanks in advance on their behalf as well.
Thank you very much, Dax, just for being my mentor, really, and helping me through what I've gone through. Because as you know, when I used to come to personal train at your studios, I would often be very upset, and Julie and yourself helped me through all of that. And you helped me through my hip surgery. You've helped me through becoming the person I am today, and just want to thank you for that as well, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here and having this conversation.
Well, it's been my complete pleasure. It's been my pleasure to actually watch you grow as a fit pro and as a coach and every other way. So well done, Chris.
Cheers. Thanks, Cheers. All right then. Speak to you soon, Dax.
Cheers.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.